Alright, what is up YouTube? It's DEFCON TCG back on the live video. I feel like I haven't done one of these in a while, so I wanted to play more with this Charizard deck. It's definitely in my top contenders to play for Toronto Regionals. I think this, Bunnies, and Gardevoir are kind of my three picks. Played Gardevoir to a bunch of majors. I think I have like 2 or 3 day 2s with it, so definitely a fan of the Gardevoir deck. And can't really go wrong with a deck you've been playing for a long time. I do think the Bunny deck is also very good. I've had some success with it recently at local tournaments, so maybe I'll be able to use Toronto as a chance to maybe give Dusk Bunnies its first top 8. That'd be pretty sick. And then, this Charizard deck I feel like is pretty intriguing too. You do have a lot of options, right? With the Waterpon to be able to take multiple knockouts. You have a 1 energy basic attacker that can do a pretty good chunk of damage in 240 with Terapagos, so I like that. Then it gets to play the Dusknoir line, which is always a buff. It gets to play Pidgeot, which is a buff. And then your main attacker, Charizard's a little bit more resilient and hits a little bit harder than Low Bunny. So this is kind of just another version of the Dusk Bunnies deck, I think, that I've been enjoying. And then for support accounts, I was playing in the video before. I was playing 2 Iono, no Lillie, but since then I've changed it to 2 Lillie and an Iono. I was playing the 3rd Area 0, but I have since then changed it. I just wanted an extra supporter card so that we can have more live outs, once you get Iono'd low. You don't have Pidgeot down, so this is nice. Be able to go 4 Dawn, and then you have 7 draw supporters as opposed to the 6 before. And I've been liking this a lot. I think that this build is pretty consistent. I've also changed it down to just 370 HP Charmanders. The 1 Charmander having free retreat is pretty nice, but the problem you do run into is that the 80 HP Charmander is not searchable under Poffin, so you have to use something like a Nest Ball for it, which is more likely that you open a Buddy Poffin. So being able to go for like Buddy Poffin or Fan Rotom plus Charmander is pretty much your bread and butter turn 1 play. So I'm gonna get some games in with this deck, so I'm gonna pause it until we find a game. Alright, we get into our first game here. Our opponent's got these Anaheim World Sleeves, so they're probably a pretty solid player. I mean, most people don't really buy the codes for them, but unfortunately we do hit the, which I'm going to assume this is going to be Goldango, but we do get a pretty good setup here. Be able to Nest Ball. Nest Ball is going to grab me that Waterpon, so I'll be able to have my Terra Pokemon down for turn 1, which is good. Then I can just take a look at my deck. I'm definitely looking to prioritize knowing if Pidgeot's in deck. So I do have Pidgeot, Pidgeotto. I do have Charizard. These are all pretty nice things to know. I got 2 Hootoots, 2 Noctowl, so I prize 1/1 line of that. I got both my Fan Rotoms. Unfortunately, it looks like I did prize 2 Charmander, so that might be a little bit rough. I'm going to hope off of this Waterpon I'm going to be able to get another one down, or another one off of the prize card. So I can go for Charmander plus Fan Rotom here, which is pretty good. It's like I said, bread and butter play. I do have a Noctowl in hand, or I have Noctowl in hand. I didn't prize the 3rd one. And then I have Dusclops in hand. Fortunately, this Dusclops is probably going to get knocked out by this Soul Rock turn 1. But I still, let's see, I do not have an energy in hand, so I can't retreat into Ditto. So here, I think I'm fine with just grabbing like double Hoothoot plus a Pidgey. That way, I can have access to double Noctowl next turn. The first one's probably just going to grab me a Rare Candy plus something else, because I do already have that Dawn in hand. More than likely, I can get to the attack with the Waterpon next turn. Unfortunately for me, my opponent did lead something that is going to be able to live the Torrential Pump, but at least I can knock out a Gimmighoul on the bench and maybe prevent my opponent from getting as many Goldangos in play as possible. That's kind of the name of the game versus Goldango, is if you can prevent a lot of Goldangos from coming down, it's pretty nice. But my opponent's deck plays a ton of outs to, there's an Arven, so more than likely Arven's going to get like a Buddy Poffin. Buddy Poffin's going to grab those copies of Gimmighoul, and then he's going to kind of get rolling. If my opponent has a bunch of fighting energy in hand, I could also see Arven getting maybe a Lunatone to be able to get those attacks. Oh, actually, our opponent is going to go for the Evo TM. Oh, actually, they're just going to get rid of Evo TM. I lied. I've seen Evo TM being included in a lot of these Goldango decks. I think that like Azul played it into a Mickey, and it is really good against like the Waterpon to be able to just evolve into your Goldangos. I don't really know if I agree with getting rid of that Team Evo turn 1 unless my opponent plays 2, which the odds I would say are pretty low. But we know our opponent has that turn 1 knockout on our Duskull, which is pretty unfortunate. They do use the Artisan to get Lunatone, and maybe just gambling on drawing some more cards. I would have definitely maybe liked to see them keep that Evo TM, because if they were able to hold it, they could have just gotten a Goldango online, so then they can, maybe go like Boss Waterpon turn 2. But yeah, this is pretty solid for me. because now on this turn, I can go for a Water Pond, put 100 damage on this, and then attack into Lunatone, which is nice. And then if I evolve into Charizard, it's going to be proof from getting my Soul Rock is going to get KO'd. So let's see here. All right. So I think I'm going to just go for Artisan. We're going to take a look at the deck really quick. And I can get Duskull down here as well, which seems pretty solid to be able to take advantage of Gimmighoul's. We do have an Area 0 Underdepth, so I think this turn I can go for a Noctowl for Rare Candy plus Area 0 Underdepths to be able to get the big bench going. And then I can probably even use this Night Stretcher to just get that second Duskull back. Because I do have that Terra Pokemon in play, we're going to go for the Noctowl here, go for the Jewel Seeker. Take a look at this deck. So I do have the Crystal, and I do have the energy required to be able to attack. So I think here we're gonna go for. So I don't know really if I can go for the Dawn then, but if I do evolve this Charmander into Charmeleon, I can I guess I can just evolve it into Charizard and then do the Crispin later. So I can go for a copy of Rare Candy here, and I can go for the Sparkling Crystal. And then Dawn for Charizard, and then evolve this up, and then I can just still do the attack while keeping an energy on the Charizard. And then next turn I can Dawn for the attack just to be able to do it again. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to go for here. Go for the Dawn. Dawn's going to grab me Charizard, and then also grab a Noctowl and a Pidgeot for the... Oh, I can't grab Pidgeot, I'm grabbing Charizard. So look for basics. I think we'll just grab Fezandipiti because we can still just get that big bench down. So let's see, now here I want to use the Noctowl, so we're going to grab Area 0. Yep, I want to do this. I want to grab Area 0. We're going to look, so off of this, I think I want to save my option for going for Crispin or going for the Dawn for next turn. So I do have this Ultra Ball in my hand, so I think I'm just going to grab another copy of... actually, did we prize double candy? Okay, so we actually did prize double candy, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we can live with that. It's not like the end of the world here, but I am just going to go for the Crispin here, I think, just so that on the following turn, I'm able to do the Water Pond again, because my opponent's going to have a pretty weak board after this. So yep, I can go for the Area 0 Underdepths, bench Pidgey, and then I'm going to go for the Rare Candy plus the Charizard. And we'll be able to get this Water Pond Torrential Pump attack down. And then next turn I can just use Crispin to do it again, which is pretty nice. We go 2 to active, 1 to the Charizard. Slam the Sparkling Crystal. Because I did get all of those energy out of the deck, I now can go for the flip of the script to draw 3 more cards. And I draw a Pidgeotto plus another Underdepth, which is still pretty nice if I'm wanting to go for the... I can just go Pidgeotto onto the Pidgey, so I don't have to use that Rare Candy next turn because I don't have it in the tech, unfortunately. But yeah, I can still use that Crispin next turn to get another Torrential Pump off. So we'll go up 3 prizes. I would like to shuffle my energy into the deck. Yep, we're going to pop that Lunatone. Take a prize card here. So we got 2 Candy, 2 Charmander, and a Hoothoot in here. So we're going to be able to grab a Charmander, which is pretty nice. There's no chance that our opponent can knock out our Charizard this turn. I think worst case scenario, our opponent has like Boss's Order, Knockout Pidgey, or Skull. Would be a bit annoying, but I think this would be like a prime turn for our opponent to go for the Evo TM if they're able to draw into it. So yeah, they had a ton of cards in hand. I just don't see a world where every card in their hand is worse than Evo TM, or is better than Evo TM, so that Evo TM is the discard there. Especially because I'm playing a Water Pond deck, because now, next turn, I can go for Crispin and knock out Gimmighoul. And there's no way they're not benching a single Gimmighoul. I mean, I'm assuming this is Goldango. I don't see, yeah, there's the Poffin. So most people play the 70 or 80 HP Charcadet. I mean, it could still be the... Oh my god, was it extra Ceruledge? I was like, it could still be Ceruledge, I guess, but I was just leaning towards Dango because I saw the Evo TM. I guess Ceruledge could play Evo TM if they played Arvins, but more likely we would see stuff like Researches or Carmines. And don't forget today, if you guys haven't, drink your water. Sister got me this sick water bottle for Christmas. She has like a collection of these things, and I was always stealing them. Well, there was like one in particular I would always use, and she was just like, I don't want you to use mine, so I got you one. I was like, you know what? You're real for that. So I got my own like little nifty modern water bottle. But unfortunately for my opponent for this turn, it doesn't really put them in a great spot, right? So what are they going to do? Retreat into Lunatone? Okay, this is a smart play for my opponent, actually, because now this Lunatone won't be able to get knocked out. So if my opponent does... If I do Water Pond, I'm knocking out Lunatone plus a Gimme Ghoul. Then I'm taking 2 prize cards, right? But I think what my play would be this turn is to go, like, Water Pond into Gimme Ghoul. And then I go down to 3 prizes. My opponent's going to take 2 prizes on Ogerpon. And then I can go for a win condition of... Oh, wait. I want to get rid of... I'd prefer to get rid of Double Noctowl, I believe. Yep. So get rid of Double Noctowl there. And even this next turn, I can go Area 0 and then Night Stretcher for a Hoothoot. Because I do have that extra Noctowl in the deck still, which is pretty nice. And we're going to see the Artisan here. Artisan's probably just going to grab another copy of Gimme Ghoul. Alright, I'm going to go to 4 prize. My opponent's going to go to 3. And then I can win on the following turn with a Briar plus a Dusknoir, which seems to be like it's going to be my win condition here. Using Sob against this deck is also really not very good, just because they are able to Turo out of the active and then just kind of knock me out. Actually, you just see the Turo down. Is the Turo going to pick up probably the Fez, I'd have to guess? Yeah. Pretty solid play for my opponent there, so then that way I don't go, like, Boss Sword or Kill. Like, if theoretically if my deck played a Latias, I could go, like, Area 0, Nest Ball for Latias, Retreat, Attach Fire, boss up the Fezandipiti. Alright, goes back into my turn. I draw Fire for turn, which is nice to be able to attach it to Charizard. I'm going to go for the Area 0 Underdepths here. I don't have an extra bench space, so I'm not able to use it at the moment. And I think I'm just going to open the turn with going for the Crispin. So that way I can put 100 damage and then knock out one of these Gimme Ghouls. So we'll just slam both of these bad boys here. Put the water, and then I have the fire for a next turn to attach a Charizard, which is pretty nice, but I'm still going to go a couple evolutions here. So I'll go evolve into Pidgeotto, bench a Charmander in case my opponent goes boss kill Charizard, and I'm going to evolve into Dusclops here. And then because I know I have another Hoothoot in the deck, I'm going to Night Stretcher for a copy of Hoothoot and put that bad boy down. And then I can save this Ultra Ball in hand for the following turn. And yeah, I'm just going to go for the Torrential Pump. And I'd like to shuffle energy into the deck. I would. And I want to keep the Soul Rock alive because it's going to be able to die to one of the pieces for the Dusknoir or Duskull. So yeah, I can retreat, knock that thing out, take another prize card, and I'm going to go down to 4 here. And I can still win on the following turn with Briar. So if my opponent retreats his Lunatone and then knocks out my Cornerstone Ogerpon, my opponent's going to go down to 3, I'll be at 4. I can go Duskull, knock out Soul Rock, my opponent goes to 2, I go to 3, and then I go Briar with Charizard to knock out the Goldango. The only way this can get a little bit suspect is if my opponent goes boss kill my Charizard. I think boss kill Dusclops is also maybe a fine play for my opponent. But they're gonna need a lot here because they have to find a way to retreat the Lunatone. I'm sure they have a bunch of cards in hand, so they did Superior last turn. So we'll see what they want to go for. I think them knocking out Clops is a fine play. They go down to 4. Actually, I actually don't like that play because then they go down to 4, and then I just go down to 2 by knocking out a 2 prizer, and then they have no way of taking 3 prizes on the following turn. So we'll see what they want to KO here. I think ideally it's Charizard. It's going to make me find the most amount of cards to be able to find game on the following turn. Because I think ideally they want to take a 2 prize knockout here. They're playing into the Briar, but I think if they take a 1 prize knockout, they just have no win condition. Because if they take a 1 prize knockout, my Charizard's doing 240, and then I can just go boss kill Fez or Genesect, set up second Charizard, and then the game's over. We'll see they have 16 cards in hand, so they definitely have a good chunk of cards to work with. Thankfully, on my next turn, I will have access to Fezandipiti plus Pidgeotto. So that'll be pretty good to try to get another Charizard into play. Actually, unfortunately, both of those candies are prized, so I might have to use Dusclops to pop one of my opponent's rock pieces here to try to get that candy off of the prize card. But it's still a lot of cards to knock out Charizard in this following turn, right? Or on this turn right here. They would need Attach Energy, plus they need 7 energy to knock out Charizard, because 7 times 5 is 35, and there's the boss order. Let's see what it's for. Moment of Truth if it's for Charizard. Charizard's probably the worst thing for our opponent to kill here. I think that if Charizard dies, the game's a lot harder. They are down a Turo, so maybe we can go for some like counter catcher plus Sob shenanigans. Let's see. Okay, so our opponent's gonna go for the Odo, which is a good hit here. But unfortunately for my opponent, I do have the goods to win the game. So yeah, we'll still be able to set up a pretty good turn here. So I can go for the Dusclops to knock out the Lunatone, because right now I'm only doing 240 damage, so I actually don't have enough juice. We get the Charmeleon top deck, which is pretty nice. And I think I'm just going to go for a flip the script here. I only have a Rod in deck to be able to have more recursion. I draw a Dusknoir off the top two. So I want to use... I mean, it doesn't really matter because my opponent's always taking a prize card here. But I don't need Nor to knock out one of these rock pieces. So I think what I'm actually do is I'm just going to use the Dusclops and I'm going to knock out this Lunatone because it is going to be a pivoting piece. And then we're both going to go to 3 prizes. Take my prize card here. Boom. Get one of those bad boys. And I do get the rare candy, so that's pretty nice. So I'll be able to go attach to Charizard here. And there's a low chance my opponent plays Iono. It's probably like negative 0% chance. So I just want to keep this in the active because my opponent can kill this. It doesn't matter because I have a Charmeleon on the bench now. And now my Burning Darkness is doing 270 to be able to knock out the Goldango. I can just thin my deck out of all the cards I don't need. So I'll go for Nest Ball. I'll just put Fan Rotom down. Excuse me, I just had a hiccup. Yeah, I'll put Fan Rotom down. I do have another copy of Charizard in the deck. So yeah, we're just going to thin out this Fan Rotom. And then I'm not going to need this Boss's Order anymore because my opponent only has... If I take a knockout, I'll go to 1 prize. My opponent takes a knockout on Charizard. They'll also go to 1 prize. So I actually don't need this Boss's Order anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to Ultra Ball away Boss's Order and this Charmander. Get rid of both of those. Search my deck. And let's see. I can go for Noctowl and Oh, actually my Super Rod is prize as well. So I'm going to save this Noctowl then. And I'm just going to search Ditto. I can just bench this Ditto and it'd be fine. So I'll just throw this Ditto down. Don't really need it. So I just want to thin the most cards out of my deck possible. So I'm going to go for the Lillie's Determination here. And I just want to try to draw through a chunk of my deck here. So I get Poffin. I'm going to just play the Poffin to thin it out. And yep, we're just getting rid of those bad boys. So let's see. I do have a Dawn in hand for next turn, which is what I wanted to draw. So I can Dawn for the Charizard, and then the Charizard is just game. I can also get like Noctowl as well. So yeah, we'll go for Burning Darkness. Take 2 prizes on the Goldango. And then yeah, boom. We'll go down to 1 prize. So this should be what? Yeah, Rod and a Hoothoot. So I drew the Rod, which is pretty nice. So that if I had a bunch of Fire Energy in my discard pile, then I could Super Rod the Fires back and then evolve into Charizard. But I think the game is pretty much just cooked for my opponent here. If they take a knockout on a Charizard, I have another Charmeleon on the bench ready to go. If they... Yeah, I really don't even know what they could do, because they can't even trap anything, because I can just evolve into Charizard and then attach a bunch of energy down and retreat. If they kill Hoothoot, then I just evolve into a Noctowl, retreated with Charizard. So I think the game is pretty much over here. The only way it would change is if my opponent potentially had an out to Iono. But generally, Goldango doesn't want to play Iono because they have a billion cards in hand always, so where the deck usually thrives. Ooh, excuse me. Alright, so then there's a Metallic Signal for another copy of Goldango, but this Giving Ghoul just came down, so if my opponent was holding something like Iono, they probably would have used the Iono and then Metallic Signal, but yeah, I think this game is just cooked for our opponent here. Because next turn, as soon as I play the Dawn, they just scoop. And the bad thing is, right, I have, what, 7 cards in hand. And then next turn, I need to draw, go to 8, and then Fezandipiti for 3. So they have to hope I don't have an out of Charizard and 11 cards, which is not looking good, bro. Yep, and there's the 350 down to the Charizard. Be able to take 2 prizes from my opponent. And then, yeah, I'm just going to... I do still have a Terra Pokemon in play, so I don't have to worry about discarding my bench down. And then I can just, yeah, promote Charmeleon. And then I'm going to play Super Rod just to guarantee that we have everything in deck here. Always better to play it safe than sorry, right? Yeah, we'll evolve into Charizard and the 2 Fire Energy back. And then go for Dawn. And then my opponent should just scoop here. Yep. Charizard comes out, takes a knockout. I'd only used, I want to say 1, maybe 2 Dawn that game, so likeliness of me having another Dawn is pretty high there. So I wanted to thin just kind of as many cards out of my deck as possible before playing that Lillie's. Probably would have been fine to maybe bench that Charmander also, so that if my opponent played a 3rd stadium, which is very unlikely. I've never seen a Gholdengo play a 3rd stadium in this format, but then I could have maybe got rid of more guys on my bench. So let's get another game with this deck going. Alright, my opponent's calling the flip, and it's going to be... I actually really like this background that they have going. They have like the little Lotad lily pads here. Yo, you guys know how much I love Lotad, so this is a very cool one. I do think that this little layout's cool. They have like little blue corners and the red corners. I wish I was a red corner. I wish I would change this. This looks sick. My opponent's going to make me go first, which is fine. I am playing a Waterpon deck. Thankfully, I'm going to be able to mulligan this hand because this hand is pretty atrocious. No out to any basics in that hand. And we do get the Fan Rotom lead, which is pretty solid here. And I have the Dawn plus Sparkling Crystal for next turn to be able to do some damage. And my opponent's going to lead Dreepy. Unfortunately, I do not have an out to a Charmander. Because if I had an energy, I could retreat. But let's see. We'll be able to just go for... Let's see. We do have Pidgeot in deck. So I'm going to go for a Pidgey, a Pidgeotto, and a Hoothoot. Because I do have 2 Noctowls in hand already. Unfortunately for me, I don't have an... Or I do have an out to Terra Pokemon in Dawn. But I'm not going to be able to get the turn 2 Waterpon attack off, unfortunately. But I can maybe go for a Sob onto the Badoo if I'm able to, which is nice. So there we go. See the Buddy Poffin from the opponent. Be able to get down. Probably going to see like a Dreepy and a Badoo. Actually, we see a Natu and a Dreepy. Pretty interesting. My opponent's going to be playing Duskpult with a Natu to be able to get that extra energy acceleration down, which is pretty cool. See the Itchy Pollen here. I think there's maybe also an argument for me to go for like a Salt Landing and then follow that up with the Waterpon next turn, because I'm not able to retreat Fan Rotom, and I do want to take a knockout on this Badoo to give me access to items. So I can evolve into Pidgeotto here. And then Dawn is going to come down. Dawn has to grab me my Terra Pokemon, so I'm going to grab Waterpon. Want to have Pidgeot for the following turn. And then as far as the stage 1, it looks like I prized my Clops, which is unfortunate. Also, I prized both Skulls, which, oh my god. I prized both Skulls and Clops, which is a pretty hefty line. I prized one not Charizard in my hand. Okay. I'm able to go for this. I grab Waterpon, Charmeleon, and Pidgeot. Being able to have that Pidgeot's going to be pretty important for next turn. Oh, well, I played the Dawn, so I can't Waterpon, I guess. Okay, well, that's fine. Attach Sparkling Crystal here. And then I guess I can just sit on this for the following turn. Not the greatest setup here, unfortunately. Yeah, sometimes this deck I do want to play like an energy search just to be able to get an energy out of the deck, or like a Vessel, but I don't think there's anything here worth Noctowling for, so I think I'm just going to pass here. Next turn I can go for the Crispin play, I guess. I can go for like Crispin, Aries, to knock out Badoo. Unfortunately, it gives my opponent another turn to set up. If they Iono me, it's pretty bad, but I can still use this Pidgeot. If they don't Iono me, they actually just go for an Itchy Pollen, so that's a good sign for me. It means my opponent's hand is not very good. Alright, so I get the top deck Fire Energy, which is pretty nice. Would have definitely liked that a turn ago, but I can't really complain. My opponent's bricking. So I'm going to conserve the... Actually, it doesn't really matter if I conserve Noctowl, so I can just use this to set up a Charmander, and then I can go for the Area 0 plus the Crispin. I do have Crispin in deck, so I can get that energy attached to Waterpon and the Fan Rotom. So yeah, I'm going to bench Charmander here, and we'll go for the Noctowl. Noctowl's going to grab Crispin to be able to get those energies into play. So we'll go for Crispin, and then the second card is going to be Area 0, so we can attack with this active Fan Rotom. I want to be able to get rid of this Badoo so I can be able to play items on the following turn. So grab that water and grab that Fire Energy, and we'll just, doesn't really matter which way we do it. So the Water Energy is going to go on Waterpod, and then this Fire Energy is going to go on Fan Rotom, and then I can knock out the opponent's active with a Salt Landing, and then on the following turn, because I do have Crystal plus the Water Energy, I can retreat Fan Rotom into Waterpond and then take another 2 knockouts. So We'll see maybe if our opponent's holding like a Fezandipiti or something. So they promote Duskull here. We'll see if this Badoo bought them the one turn they need to top deck a supporter. And they actually did have the Fezandipiti. But this is fine because I do have access. Okay, there's a jamming tower, which will be a bit annoying, but I do have access to the Pidgeot plus Fan Rotom. Seems like my opponent just wanted to save the... Maybe they drew the Lilies or the Fezandipiti for turn, but I imagine they drew Fez or the Lillie for turn, because if they had Lilies last turn, they would have just used it. But now the Fez makes me think that they were holding Fez and then top deck the Lillie, which is pretty nice for them, because they'll be able to draw 8 off Lillie and then 2 off Xatu, and then now 3 cards off of the Fez. And the what is this, Hyper Aroma? Hyper Aroma comes out, which is pretty cool. So they'll be able to use that to evolve into they probably are holding multiple Dracloaks here, which is an interesting. Okay, they're actually going to go. They actually get straight into the Dragapult here, which is pretty cool. They're going to have that Rare Candy, and they'll be able to use a Dusclops here to be able to pivot into the active. So we see a pretty fast Dragapult build here, which is cool. Unfortunately for me, I think this means my Charmander is going to be getting knocked out here. But if my opponent does take a 2-prize turn, I can go something for like Counter Catcher up the Fezandipiti and then trap it for a turn, which I think is a solid play. Probably see the Curse Blast go on to Charmander here. Yep, unfortunate. Means I'm going to be able to take a prize card at least. Yep, so I take a prize card. But then unfortunately for me, or unfortunately for, me, I guess, my opponent's going to be able to promote this. Knockout Fan. Oh, they actually have Counter Catcher, which is pretty bad. It's going to be able to hit into Pidgeot. Let's see, yeah, we'll see a hit into Pidgeot as well as probably a knockout on the Charmander. So it's going to go 2 here. Opponent's going to have 4 left. So maybe we'll see 4 into Fan Rotom to set up maybe a Hawlucha play for the following turn. That actually just ignores the Fan Rotom entirely. Puts 1 on to the Wellspring Ogerpon. But I think this is fine. I think I still am okay going for the Water Pond play. I think I can still try to maybe go for like Area 0. So I'm going to go for the Fezandipiti here. Fezandipiti is going to draw me 3 cards. And we get Rare Candy and a Night Stretcher. So let's see. I think here I can go for like Pidgeot for Area 0. And then Noctowl grab Boss's Order plus... Let's see. I assume it's maybe Boss's Order plus a Poffin to grab double Charmander. So actually, I like this play. I think we're going to go for that. We'll put me down to 2 prizes. I get to keep Fezandipiti in play. So let's see. I guess I could also just grab a supporter. So I can go Area 0 here for that. And then I can use... Well, I'm going to have to use Boss's Order. Yeah, there's Boss's Order. And then Charmander, 2 Charmander, and then the Buddy Poffin. Yep. So this will allow me to do the full play here. Go for Area 0, get that full bench going, attach my Fire Energy to Ogerpon here, and then I can use Buddy Poffin to grab double Mander. So I actually have another card I can use to grab off of this Noctowl. So let's see, what do I want to do here? I'm holding a Night Stretcher as well. Night Stretcher could grab me 3rd Charmander, but it's pretty much impossible for my opponent to knock out... Well, I guess if they have Boss's Order plus... Hawlucha, right? They go Boss Order, Hawlucha kill double Charmander. So maybe a Night Stretcher for 3rd Mander. I think this is fine. I go Night Stretcher for 3rd Mander, and then I can use this Noctowl to grab me a Boss's Order plus something else for the following turn. So I want to grab Boss to be able to knock out the Dracloak and the Skull. And then what do I want to grab out of my deck? I could see the Dawn being good. But I do have the Charizard here, so if my opponent does take like a 3-prize turn, then I win the game. I don't think they can take 5 because they would have to combo with the Duskull, and I'm knocking that out this turn. So maybe I just go for the Lilies. I think, or how many Fire Energies are in my deck? I have 3 Fire Energy in deck, so I'm safe if I evolve in a Charizard next turn. So I think maybe I even go for Iono. Be able to limit my opponent's hand size after I take a big knockout, and then I 2-shot the Dragapult if my opponent doesn't play into it. So I think this is fine. I'll go for Boss's Order plus Iono, and then I'm going to Boss's Order. I'm going to bring up Dracloak, and yeah, we'll go for the Water Pond here. Take a knockout on this, take a knockout onto the Duskull. I would like to shuffle my energy back into the deck. And yeah, we'll take a knockout on Duskull here because that is going to prevent my opponent from taking a 5-prize turn. My opponent can knock out this Ogerpon, which is doesn't matter at this point in the game. But I think the bad thing is, well, I think fortunately for me, if my opponent wants to use a Gust on Pidgeot to knock it out, it's going to save one of my other guys from getting KO'd. Obviously, like an Iono here is going to be pretty strong. Like Iono plus Boss Kill Pidgey is pretty nice. But then maybe I can go for, like, maybe I have another Boss's Order. I can go like Boss's Order plus Stob again to be able to trap maybe Fezandipiti if my opponent doesn't go for the Pidgeot. So yeah, I think that's actually a good play also next turn, is if my opponent doesn't kill Pidgeot, right, I can go Boss's Order, up Fezandipiti, trap it for a turn, and then evolve up all my Charmanders, and then just KO the Fezandipiti for game. Let's see, if my opponent has Iono here, it is pretty rough. Iono plus Counter Catcher is really rough. Yeah, I see the Iono, and then my opponent's going to get 5 cards plus 3 off Fezandipiti, plus potentially another 2 off Xatu. But I get a Dawn, which is pretty nice. Dawn plus Ultra Ball is going to be pretty nice here. And let's see, my opponent has to draw probably with their second copy of Counter Catcher. With the Xatu in the deck, I can maybe see them only playing 1 Jamming Tower. That's going to probably be a Night Stretcher for us. Oh, it's actually Night Stretcher for the Dracloak. So I'm going to assume they don't have the Counter Catcher in hand yet. Okay, so I think they probably ripped it there off the Dragapult. They're gonna, yeah, actually they're gonna hit into Fezandipiti, which is interesting here. So we see the Fezandipiti 60 onto Pidgeot, but it's not gonna take a knockout. So my opponent is definitely going for that big 6 prize turn. Unfortunately for me, I don't really know if I have any counterplay to this, because I have to get an energy attachment down here, but I also have to kind of gust around. So because my opponent's going to be able to go, let's see, maybe if I go for an Iono and I leave Fezandipiti in the active, my opponent can only take, because they go 2 here, they have 4 left, they can put 4 on Fan Rotom. So maybe I go for Iono and hope my opponent isn't able to go for the full Wombo combo. I think maybe that's fine. I'm going to go for Quick Search here. Go for Quick Search, look for Iono, and let's see, my opponent has to find a Boss's Order. I mean, it's not really that impactful of an Iono, right? Because my opponent has a ton of cards in hand. So maybe nothing on my opponent's bench is is like beefy at all. And I don't have a way of getting an energy, I believe, off of Dawn. Like, I can go Rare Candy Charizard. If I go Rare Candy off of the Pidgeot and just attack and hope my opponent doesn't have a Boss's Order, I think maybe is also my best play. So I go for Rare Candy here. I already committed the Pidgeot, so I think I just have to play the Dawn now. Yeah, we'll go for the Dawn. Dawn is going to grab Charmander, or Charizard, Charmeleon, and then I could just grab a Skull, I guess. Prizing both of the Skulls is probably going to lose me this game, because if I had a Skull this turn, I could have just won the game. So go Charmeleon, and then go for Rare Candy into Charizard. We'll go to Charizard here. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't win the game this turn with another Water Pond attack. I'd like to use Infernal Rain. Get those 3 energy out of the deck. Trying to think, if I go for a Pidgeot attack, I can maybe go for Pidgeot here. Go Pidgeot, knock out Underdepths, and then Underdepths can get rid of the Fezandipiti and like Fan Rotom Noctowl. I think that's also good, because that's going to put some damage onto... Yeah, I think I actually like this play. I'll go Retreat into the Pidgeot, and then I have another Charmeleon for next turn if I need it, and then I can go for Blustery Winds. So I can do 120 damage to get rid of this Dragapult. I will discard my Stadium, and then I can get rid of this, and this. And then my opponent is going to have a tough time taking a 5 prize turn, I think. If I keep Noctowl, we'll get rid of this. Then if my opponent Phantom dives, they have to put all 6 here. So I think maybe this is a bit more impactful. Yeah, I think this is fine, because then it takes all the 2 prizers off my bench that aren't 300 billion HP. Then I get rid of all these guys, put 120 on my opponent's active Dragapult, and then if my opponent wants to take a knockout, they have to target down my Charmeleon. Unfortunately, this is going to give them 3 damage counters to work with, so they can knock out Pidgeot. But then I can just promote Charizard, and then they smack into me again. Chance of them having another counter catcher on this turn is pretty low. See an Ultra Ball here. I assume this Ultra Ball is going to be probably for another Dracloak. Yeah, because there's only... Okay, we see the Dusknoir, but my opponent got rid of their Skull. So maybe they can't risk giving me another card, and they're just going to go for a retreat plus Mind Bend, like maybe move 3 Mind Bend. But they have maybe just another fresh way to Dragapult here. Because they're for sure knocking out my Pidgeot this turn. If they take 2, I'm doing 270, which isn't a lot of damage. But they can move 3rd. They can take a 3 prize turn, which, I mean, isn't really beneficial for them because then I'm just doing more damage with my second Charizard. But this matchup is all pretty rough. But we see like a unique build here that's kind of like a turbo Dragapult deck. Let's see, there's a second Dragapult coming down, so this Dragapult's probably going to retreat and attack. Yep, so we'll see the new Dragapult come up. And then Ultra Ball is going to come down. This is probably going to be for that copy of Dracloak, if my opponent has one left. Looks like they don't. Alright, and then we'll probably see the Monkey Dory move 3 damage counters over, but what is it going to be to? I guess my opponent can go like, knock out Pidgeot, knock out Charmander. If they move 3 to okay, so we see a boss's order to knock out Charmeleon. Oh, so they're going to go knock out Charmeleon, Charmander. Unfortunate. We're just kind of hoping my opponent didn't have another gusting option, but looks like they do have it here. You'll see the 3 here, and then we'll go 4 here, 2 here. Actually, my opponent does still have the 5 prize turn, which is pretty insane. Yeah, I mean, Dragapult's a pretty poor matchup, so we're going to chalk this one down to we got close. Definitely the prizing, the double skull is probably what lost us the game, because in that last turn, if we had... Oh, wait, they only took 4. Still here, we don't really have anything going for us. Let's see, I can Ultra Ball, get rid of Terapagos and Skull, take a look at what's in here. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, so we're just going to lose to another Phantom Dive on the following turn. I guess we can try to maybe go for like a Counter Catcher. And yeah, didn't get the Counter Catcher to be able to maybe try to stick something. My opponent's down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 energy. But yeah, I think our opponent's got this one. Unfortunate. Pretty close game, I think. If we had a Duskull down maybe on like the 3rd turn of the game where we kind of got going, we could have definitely got something going there. But it's a tough matchup. Dragapult's a very tough matchup for this deck. You definitely need the skulls to be able to manipulate your prize trade and then use the 130 damage you get with the Nor to be able to take aggressive knockouts. Maybe there's a turn there I didn't need to Water Pond, but I think knocking out the Skull made it so I didn't lose on the following turn. So I wanted to make a play that made sure that I was still in the game, but maybe it wasn't a winning play. Maybe it was just to stay in the game play. But we'll see if we can get this video to above 500. So we hit Dragapult, Goldango, so maybe we can hit a Guardy this time, kind of round out that top 4. Our opponent's deciding to go first, so it's more than likely not a Guardy deck. And oh man, thankfully we're mulliganing this hand, because this hand is terrible. We see Archaludon sleeve, so we see maybe Archaludon, Zoroark, but even that deck wants to go second as well. And we get a pretty nice start here. We get the Fan Rotom with the Charmander. We also get the Buddy Poffin. So pretty nice little opening hand here. We have the Poffin to be able to get whatever Pokemon we want. And we see a Monkey Dory and a Fezandipiti. So it could really just be anything still. This still could be Gardevoir, although I doubt it. All right, we see Air Balloon. And we see the metal attached to Fezandipiti. So maybe it is Archaludon. Unfortunate for draws for my opponent there, not be able to do too much. But I definitely think if I'm playing the Archaludon deck, I want to go second. Unless maybe it's Poison Archaludon. So let's take a look at the deck. I do have Pidgeot and Charizard, which is nice. So I want to definitely grab a copy of Charmander. And let's see, I can go Charmander here. And I could also grab the Ditto to retreat into... Water Pond's not going to be as good into this matchup. Terapagos is also really not going to be that good in a matchup, but I can use it to maybe knock out the Fezandipiti later. So, because I have this Fire Energy in my hand, I want to save the Fan Rotom for probably after the Lillie's Determination. Because putting 70 on my opponent's board isn't going to be super great. They're for Charmander and the Ditto. And then I want to save these other two spots. So this spot is going to be for my Terra Pokemon. So put this Fire Energy on the Fan Rotom. And then retreat. So you can retreat into Ditto. I can also maybe even save it. My hand is still pretty strong. Yeah, so I can go put Terapagos down here. Wait. Where am I? Oh my... Bro, did I prize triple Hoothoot? There's no way. Oh my god, that's actually insane. Alright, so we prized triple Hoothoot. So I think we're going to end up using this fan call after. So we'll bench this. Bench this. Oh man, that is a tough one. Yeah, we'll use the fan call after the Lilies. Okay, so at least we get rare candy for the Pidgeot for the following turn. That's going to save us a little bit. And then I'm not even going to add a Pidgeotto because we can't even use it. It's just crazy. And yeah, we can just pass on this. This is fine. On the following turn, I can go for rare candy plus Pidgeot, and then like rare candy to Charizard to get an attack off of this Terapagos while powering up one of my Charizards, which is nice. We see the research here. Bunch of metal energy, which is not what you want to see initially from this deck, but it's not the worst thing ever. We see some Duraludons come down. I was definitely not expecting to see Duraludons at Arceus tier, but hey man, if this is what got you there, let's see what this does. Because whenever player puts a basic non-dark Pokemon to their bench, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Okay, well, that's fine. We don't really need that. And a Hammer-In for my opponent here is actually pretty good, but they did attach a Dark Energy to the Monkey Dory already. Looks like they're just going to want to sack one of their Duraludons to the Terapagos, which is fine for me. Just whenever they bench it. Whenever they put a basic. Okay, so I can go for the rare candy onto this Pidgeot. And then I'm going to go for Dawn. I can evolve into Dusclops as well. That's pretty nice. Evolve into Dusclops. I'm going to go for Dawn. I want to definitely get a Charmeleon if he wasn't prize. Oh my god, what are these prize cards, dog? The only stage 2 in my deck is Noctowl, so we'll have to add that bad boy. And then I can just go for a Duskull here, I guess, which is fine. Yeah, this is fine. Just go for this. And then I can use the Pidgeot to grab another rare candy out of the deck. Well, we can't prize everything, right? So hopefully we still have another rare candy. So yeah, go for the rare candy here. Go rare candy into Charizard. Be able to set this bad boy up. So boom, there's rare candy for the big guy. And then we'll be able to get 3 energy out of the deck. So we'll attach 1 to the active and 2 to the bench Charizard. And then I'll just get an energy attachment to Terapagos here. And then I'm just going to go for the knockout, 150 damage. If my opponent wants to use their Monkey Dory combo to knock out my Terapagos next turn to take 2 prize cards, I can always retaliate with my Dusclops plus the Charizard to be able to take a multi-prize turn. Let's see, yeah, if my opponent takes 2 prize cards, then my Charizard goes up to 240 damage. If I use Skull, then it goes to 290. So I actually can't knock out a Duraludon, but if my opponent takes 2 prize cards here, I can do something like Counter Catcher up the Fezandipiti and then Dusknoir the Monkey Dory, which is pretty nice. Yep, we see Risky Ruins activate there on the Iron Bundle. We'll probably see the Adrenal Brain go to the active, and then the Duraludon's going to just knock out this Terapagos, which is fine. It's going to allow me to do some silly stuff here. You know, I have to appreciate most of his deck is pretty, but come on, man. We could have crafted an Alt-Art Iron Bundle if you're going to have Alt-Art Dory, Alt-Art Archaludon. You could have crafted some, you know, some more Alt-Arts here, buddy. Oh, we see the Hero's Cape onto the Archaludon, which is pretty cool. Let's do some math here, right? My opponent takes 2 prize cards here onto the Terapagos, right? Then I'm doing 240. So then if I pop, I'm doing 270. So I actually can just knock out this Archaludon from full, which is cool. But I have to use a Dusknoir, right? Because when my opponent takes 2 prize cards, I'm doing 240. Dusknoir pop is going to do 270. And then the 130 damage from the Dusknoir is going to allow my Charizard to knock it out. So I can kill a caped Archaludon this turn, which is a crazy sentence. But thankfully, we at least know our opponent's ace spec here. So bam, Terapagos is going to get sent away. Appreciate you, big dog. You did good work. Promote Pidgeot. Pretty easy promote here. We've got that free retreat going. Now let's see. I draw Briar for turn. What do I want to get here? So I don't really have anything in my discard pile worth stretching for. I'm definitely going to probably Super Rod these Fire Energies back into the deck. Let's see. I think we're just going to go for a Dawn here. So I can quick search. Grab Dawn. And let's see. Dawn is going to grab me probably Fezandipiti plus Charizard. Or actually it has to grab Fezandipiti, Dusknoir plus something. Because I want to be able to knock out this Archaludon this turn. And that's going to be pretty tough for my opponent to find more knockouts. I'm going to not bench Fezandipiti so that my opponent doesn't have an easy 2 prize knockout here. I definitely want to go for Dusknoir. I can grab Charmander here because it's probably the best basic to grab. Then I can grab Noctowl. What is the downside to grabbing Fezandipiti here, though? What do I want to draw? I would like to draw in Area 0. That'd be pretty nice. But I do have Night Stretcher for another Skull, plus a Hoothoot bench. So I would have to decide between those two. So maybe... no, because if I don't draw it off of that, it's not looking super great for my bench space. So I'm just going to grab these. And yeah, I'm not going to use the Fezandipiti this turn. I'm going to leave these two bench spaces open for another Duskull and another Hoothoot. So I can evolve into Dusknoir here. And Dusknoir is going to go for Curse Blast into the Archaladon. So now we're going to have perfect math to knock out this Archaladon. Opponent goes to 3 prizes. Yeah, it definitely would have been bad to bench Fezandipiti because my opponent's for sure they're going to 3 anyway. So I can promote here. Look at that. 270 plus 130 is 400. Bench Skull. You can take 2 damage, which is fine. As long as my opponent doesn't get another Dark Energy down. And then we can Hoothoot here. Then Risky Ruin is going to take another damage. And then, yep, just go for 270 to knock out Archaladon. And if my opponent takes a 1 prize knockout on this turn, I can go for Briar for game, which is pretty nice. And we'll see probably a bunch of Hoothoots getting grabbed here. Okay, we get Boss plus Buddy Poffin, which, not the greatest. Definitely looking for some of these Hoothoots again. But if my opponent goes bench plus attach Dark Energy to Monkey Dory, they actually can knock out the Duskull, which is pretty annoying. Definitely a cool build here. We've seen some cool decks in this video. And we see the Duraludon there. We're just hoping for not a Dark Energy. But if my opponent does take a knockout, I can go Iono. If they take a knockout onto the Duskull with the Monkey Dory, I just go Briar, kill the Archaladon for game, which is nice. I can also go Countercatcher, Fezandipiti, Briar for game. It's only bad here if my opponent has a Boss's Order as well, because then I have to go like Iono Boss's Order. Or I have to go Iono plus maybe Countercatcher up the Fez. So yeah, we'll see the second Dark Energy come down here. So yeah, this this Duskull is probably getting knocked out this turn. But this is only bad in combination with a Boss's Order. My opponent has not played one yet, so it's entirely possible. They still have this Fezandipiti. Yeah, we'll see this. The Duskull's going to get knocked out here. And then if my opponent wants to Iron Bundle and push something, I'll just promote Pidgeot so that I don't get another thing knocked out. But yeah, Boss's Order is definitely worst case scenario here. So boom, there's the Duskull getting knocked out. Which maybe I could have not benched the Duskull and avoided this, but they had a ton of cards in hand, so it's probably pretty likely. So maybe the benching the Duskull was a bad play. But it's kind of fine because my Charizard always lives a hit here. And my Pidgeot always lives a hit here if my opponent wants to go for Iron Bundle. Did my opponent use Fez already? I don't think so, right? Let's see. Druicard, Archaladon, Risky Ruins, Monkey, Darks. Yeah, so they have not used Fezandipiti yet. So yeah, like I said, a Boss Order here is pretty bad. Thankfully, I can maybe go like Countercatcher the Fezandipiti plus Iono. And my opponent's going to have 1 prize left. So then they have to draw Boss's Order off of that 1 prize card. But my opponent did attach a Dark Energy to Monkey Dory. So can they even attack with Archaladon this turn? No, right? They have to find another Archaladon? Oh, we see the Iono. Okay. So, Iono counter... Or no, I'm losing now. So, my opponent can't even use Countercatcher. So, we get Rare Candy, Sparkling Crystal, and a Nest Ball. But yeah, if my opponent puts Archaladon on the active, they just lose. So, can I go for Countercatcher or Briar and win? I think so. I can go Pidgeot for Noctowl. Go Countercatcher this, because my opponent's a prize card, I'm now doing 300 damage. And then, yeah, I can go Countercatcher Briar for game here, I believe. So, I had game with Pidgeot on the board if my opponent took a Duskull knockout without using a Boss's Order to kill something else. Maybe we'll see a last ditch effort here with the Iron Bundle to maybe go like, oh, maybe he'll just feed me something, but... not that bad. I'm pretty bad, but I'm not that bad. Well, this video ends up being pretty long. But I mean, this deck isn't a deck that takes a lot to get going. It's not the games aren't very long with this deck. Okay, so let's see. So draw for turn. We'll just use this Buddy Poffin just to take a look at the deck and check to see if we have what we need. So we do have Briar and we do have Countercatcher. So yeah, that's just going to be game. So I go for Quick Search and grab Noctowl. Noctowl, because you have this big Charizard in play. Evolve it, check for these 2 cards. You know, we're just gonna go for opponents at 2 prize cards. Boom, grab Briar. We're at 3 prize cards, we're losing, so grab Counter Catcher. And just Counter Catcher up. It doesn't really matter which 2 prizer we take. And then yeah, our opponent's just gonna concede there. So Charizard, definitely a solid deck. Dragapult's a bad matchup. I think we could have definitely squeaked that one out if we got a little bit more lucky, but these prizes have been absolutely diabolical today. But, you know, it's Pokemon. What are you going to do about it? So, shout out to everybody that watches this video, man. Shout out to you guys. And then, you know, show me some love. Leave some likes and comments and, you know, try to get this algorithm moving. So, made it to the end of the video. Appreciate you. Have a good day. Shout out to Card Pop for giving me the hat when I went over there to go pick up some singles. So yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Hope you had a good holiday. If you guys got some New Year's resolutions, throw them in the comment section down below. Mine is definitely being more consistent on YouTube. Drink a lot more water, man. I got some water and then I had some strawberries here. I was waiting to defrost a little bit before I eat them. So appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one. DEFCON out. Peace.